He starts it. Why don't you start? An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 1,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to, remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's teachings.
In Buddhism, when practitioners share their understandings of the teachings and practice, it's offered on the basis of dana paramita. Dana is a Pali word that means generosity or to give freely, and this is done without expectation of anything in return when the opportunity arises. And those who share their teachings at Great Tree do so on a dana basis, so please support their practice by giving what you can. You can go to greattreetemple.org, and there's a support tab in the upper right, and give what you can. Our speaker today is our abbess, Rev Teijo Munnich. Daiju Teijo means Great Tree Right Stillness. Rev Teijo is a disciple and Dharma heir of Rev Dainin Katagiri. She studied with him from 1975 until his death in 1990, receiving formal training at Hokyoji in Minnesota, Tassajara Zen Mountain Center in California, and Hosshinji Sodo in Obama, Japan. Rev Munnich was ordained as a Zen priest in 1981. In 1983, she began to envision a practice center and community at its heart, a residential practice for women, which came to be Great Tree, incorporated in 2004. And after a lengthy search, a location was found and opened its doors in 2005. And the title of Rev Teijo's talk today is Beginnng Anew.
One of the things that I like about the practice of New Year's and New Year's resolutions is that it's like, okay, I can try again. I can start over. One time I was at a retreat with Sherry Huber, who is a Zen teacher, and she said, and somebody asked her about, it seems like I always make these commitments and then I'm not able to follow through. And she just said, well, just try again, or something like that. And I thought, yeah, that's something that sometimes we give up if we don't succeed with something that we're working on, or we forget about it. So I've always liked the idea of New Year's and New Year's resolutions. And I was thinking this morning, in the Catholic Church, I grew up as a Catholic, and we made a resolution for Lent, and it was usually something we would give up, like give up chocolate or give up something. And at a certain point, we all started saying, why are we doing this in such a negative way? Why don't we make a Lenten resolution that's positive, like I'm going to exercise more, or I'm going to, And I feel like, when we think about New Year's, we should think really maybe in both ways. Like, what am I doing that's hindering me, and what can I do to create something more in a more positive way, or develop it in such a way that I won't tend to act in that way so much. Like, this is the karma that we talk about in Buddhism. What am I doing that has become a habit? Karma is kind of like a habit. It means action, really, but it's like a habitual way of thinking that causes us to act in a certain way. And in the book on the Four Noble Truths, or in a talk on the Four Noble Truths that the Dalai Lama gave, he was talking about karma, and he said if you do something and you act like from anger or something, if you act from anger and then you say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, that's good, he said. Then you're sort of noticing it and not extending it. And he said maybe you'll do that again and again. You'll notice it after you do it, but at one point maybe you remember not to act. And he said, that's good. And that's how we work with karma. So New Year's is a good opportunity to do that. We were talking yesterday, we had our last study group of the practice period yesterday, and we were talking about our intentions for the practice period. Practice period started in September, late September. And Genjo and I had started doing the practice period in the spring. There was a practice period in the spring that went into July. And we talked about our intentions at that time. And I think both of us found ourselves kind of working from that last intention and creating kind of a new intention. At least that's what happened to me. So that actually the whole year was pretty much, for me, it was devoted to this one intention. You know, things are kind of, the way we think is not just one thing. It's always a compilation of a lot of things. And so, even though you may seem like you're changing your intention, if you look at it closely, one thing comes out of another. And we found ourselves saying, well, we're going to keep doing this intention. And I found myself making like New Year's resolutions. One year I made a New Year's resolution, and at the end of the year I said, well, I did pretty well with that New Year's resolution, but I think I need to do the same thing again this year. And I found myself kind of working off of that same intention for many years, really, because there's so many things that are connected to it. So every month we have started having a full moon gathering, and the full moon gathering we call setting aside and beginning anew. And actually, I got this phrase, beginning anew, from Thich Nhat Hanh. In his community, they in Plum Village, and probably other Thich Nhat Hanh communities, he says that he said in this article that on a weekly basis, they come together as a group and talk about what they want to set aside and how they want to begin anew. And they do this. They start, like I said, in a circle, and they have a flower in the middle. And anyone can go and pick up that flower, and whoever picks up that flower gets to speak at that time. And let me just read you what he talks about. Well, first I'll read this. This is another explanation of beginning anew. Some of you have heard what I read on our full moon gathering. Beginning anew is not to ask for forgiveness. Beginning anew is to change your mind and heart, to transform the ignorance that brought about wrong actions of body, speech, and thought, and to help you cultivate your mind of love. Your shame and guilt will disappear, and you will begin to experience the joy of being alive. All wrongdoings arise in the mind. It is through the mind that wrongdoings can disappear. So he said, at Plum Village we practice a ceremony of beginning anew every week. Everyone sits in a circle with a vase of fresh flowers in the center, and we follow our breathing as we wait for the facilitator to begin. That's what we did. When you guys were out in the kitchen, we were following our breathing. Your shame and guilt will disappear, and you will begin to experience the joy of being alive. All wrongdoings arise in the mind. It is through the mind that wrongdoings can disappear. So this ceremony has 3 parts: flower watering, expressing regrets, and expressing hurts and difficulties. So this is a little different from making an intention or New Year's resolution, but basically it comes down to the same thing. And so this is what we do at our full moon gathering each month. And I should say that even what Thich Nhat Hanh does is based on what Buddha did with his community. You know, all these people kind of gathered, and I'm not exactly sure how it is that they lived, but he was a wandering monk, so they were wandering out in the forest together. And there were times, like during the rainy season, that they would stay in one place. They would gather in one place. And probably, you know, like when you go camping or something, they built some kind of structures to protect themselves, and eventually maybe even had a place that was more refined. And I can relate to this because at our front monastery in Minnesota, we bought a piece of land. Originally, I think some of it's been sold now, but originally it was like 280 acres. A lot of it was forest, and but there were no buildings on it at all. But we were eager, you know, we were young and eager to practice at our monastery, and so we convinced Katagiri Roshi, our teacher, that we should start having retreats down there. And so in order to do this, we bought a large army tent. And I don't know if you know about army tents, but they don't have a floor. So we had to kind of make a floor. And our first retreat was in October, because we didn't think about it. We were city people, and it was freezing down there. We have pictures of it. If you go to Hokyoji and see a slideshow, you will see a picture of someone getting ready to serve, and we had formal meals in this army tent. Someone beginning to serve, and he had on his robes and a hat and a scarf and a jacket with the pot ready to serve. So it was a pretty primitive situation to begin with, and I think that's probably how it started with Shakyamuni Buddha, with his community too, that they didn't, you know, wandering monks were just sleep wherever they could, but he had this whole community, and so when they gathered, they probably had just a very primitive situation where they made coverings. And those of you that were at the mountain seat ceremony remember that we had to make such a covering in case of rain. I'm glad it didn't rain though, because when it did rain, the couple days before, the whole thing came down. But it didn't rain at the ceremony, fortunately for us, so the thing stayed up. So this kind of primitive existence, but gathering together. Now, any of you who have ever lived in community or lived with other people know that it's not easy to get along with other people, because we all have different ways of being, of living, and some people are sloppier than others, and some people are way too fanatical about keeping things clean. So there's these things that come about, these habitual ways of thinking about how to be, and habitual ways of reacting, which may be from anger or anyway. So Buddha said, okay, we need to kind of talk about this. So apparently, at least on every full moon, he would gather his community together and say, let's do this. Let's talk about what the problem is. And I always read this thing, see if I can find it, that Pema Chodron talks about, which is kind of, she says, you may ask, isn't it enough to acknowledge my regrets to myself? It helps a lot, but not enough to completely dissolve self-deception. When we express our regrets to the Buddhas or other human beings, we can't kid ourselves. As an act of self-compassion and self-respect, we use witnesses to expose ourselves to ourselves. So when we say something out loud, it has more of an impact for us. And I know this because I know how difficult it has been for me to say things out loud. So Thich Nhat Hanh does this full moon practice in his community. Well, Thich Nhat Hanh is no longer alive, but his community does it every week as a way of acknowledging what we want to change. And as Pema Chodron says, when we say it out loud, what does she say? When we don't say, when we just acknowledge it to ourselves, it helps a lot, but not enough to completely dissolve self-deception. So when we say it out loud, it helps us to not deceive ourselves quite as much. Because, when we do things, we can also kind of, what's the word? When we pretend that it's not really a bad thing, or, we don't accept responsibility for something. What's that called?
Denial.
Pardon?
Denial.
Denial, yeah, it's a kind of denial. So anyway, so every week they do it, and we do it once a month. And as it turns out, today is a full moon day, so we'll be doing this tonight, where everyone can speak up in this way. And the way that we do it is we follow the way that Thich Nhat Hanh does it, which is really based on the way that it's written in the Buddhist teachings for doing this kind of practice, this full moon practice. Thich Nhat Hanh bases it on that, but he adds one thing, and that is at the beginning, he adds this thing called flower watering. And this is also a way of resolving conflict between individuals. You start out by acknowledging things about the other person or about someone that you're in conflict with that are positive. And that really makes a huge difference. I was in conflict with someone at one point, and I asked a Thich Nhat Hanh person to please guide us through this process. And I was so affected, first of all, about the things she said about me, the positive things that she said about me. It just dissolved so much of the hurt and anger that I was feeling within this conflict. But also, when I was looking for things about her that were positive, it really took the edge off some of the feelings of anger that I was having about particular things. Because it's just particular things, and we tend to focus on them and get a fire burning inside of us. And so this person kind of led us through this flower watering. And then the next part of it was to acknowledge things, something about ourselves that we want to let go of. So that's the next part of the process. And this part is called, and this is done in all Buddhist traditions. It's called, in Japanese, it's called Sangye. And Sangye is translated as repentance. But I think the word repentance in the Judeo-Christian tradition sometimes takes on a kind of beating yourself up kind of feeling, But in a Buddhist tradition, it's more of recognizing and acknowledging something that we really don't want to be doing, but somehow we have this habit, mental habit that causes us to act in a certain way. And so to acknowledge that, and in this gathering, and it's usually done in the form of a ceremony in my tradition. So we don't actually say something out loud; we just acknowledge it. But I like this practice of acknowledging it out loud as as Hemchodron points out, it has a much bigger impact on us. And I remember when I was at Tassajara, which is an American monastery in California, this was kind of a daily practice for people, that they would, at the work meeting, we would all gather in a circle, and if someone had done something, even messed up when they were leading a ceremony or something like that, they would acknowledge it out loud at these meetings. Or if they did something that they think hurt someone, they would say it out loud at these meetings. And I remember thinking about things that I felt I should say, but I was unable to actually do it. The difficulty of actually acknowledging something out loud to a group of people that you live with, for me, was powerful. I can still feel that feeling in my body, that kind of rock that said, yeah, I know I should do this, but I can't. So there is some difficulty in it, and I think some of us have experienced this feeling of apprehension about saying something out loud that we acknowledge about ourselves in a group at the full moon gatherings that we've had. At least I have felt that hesitation. But once it's said, it makes it so easy. And when I experienced this I was at a gathering of monastics in 2019, and we had one of these ceremonies because it happened that there was a full moon in the middle of our gathering, a 5-day gathering. And so we decided to do this together, and one of the monks brought this practice of saying it out loud in small groups. We gathered in groups of 4, and I didn't know these people, and so when he was explaining it, I thought, I don't know if I can say out loud to people I don't know something that is something I want to change about myself. But then he said, well, you don't have to say anything, you can pass. But when I get into my group, everybody went before me. I happened to be in a position of the 4th person. Everything that everyone said resonated for me, and I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And by the time it got to me, I felt totally comfortable about saying it, because I thought, these things that we are dealing with, they are human problems, And so when we say it out loud, it not only helps us, as Pema Chodron says, to dissolve our self-deception, but it helps everyone to recognize, oh yeah, that's something that I want to change too. Oh yeah, that is something. So we really help each other. And I also feel like when we get to know each other and we're having conflicts and we acknowledge these things, for me it has helped me not be so upset about this person not changing something, to know that they're working on it. So it's a multi-dimensional experience to do this. He says the ceremony has 3 parts: flower watering, expressing regrets, and expressing hurts and difficulties. And that's expressing hurts and difficulties isn't something that we put into our full moon gathering, but this is something that comes about when you're in a more of a one-on-one conflict resolution kind of situation. This is not called conflict resolution; it's called Beginnng Anew. But I saw a demonstration of this one time when I was at a retreat that Thich Nhat Hanh was leading, and these 2 people from the community got up, and it was clear by the end that they actually had done this before with each other, because they had these kind of conflicts that between them, and you could actually, they were very honestly doing it. You could actually feel the conflict arise between them when it was happening, and by the end, between them, they had resolved to trying to deal with these hurts that came about within this conflict. And it was quite beautiful to watch it happen, but it was also a reminder that these things don't just happen in one shot, that it's a real process. So when we have these full moon gatherings each month, I'm reminded of this process. And some of us find ourselves saying the same thing that we want to set aside every month, or something that's very related. So it's a very kind of powerful practice. And one of the things that we do with the Beginnng Anew part is, with the flower watering part, is we express, first of all, something that we want to recognize about ourselves that we appreciate. And sometimes it's more difficult to do that than it is to express something that you appreciate about someone else. So with the flower watering, the first thing that we do is we take a moment to think of something about ourselves that we express, that we like, that we appreciate, and that we want to cultivate. Because sometimes we get a little negative towards ourselves, and so I think it's good to look at something positive and actually acknowledge it out loud. And of course, you can pass, but it's a very good practice to do that. And then we acknowledge something about someone that we're annoyed with, or in conflict with, or just plain old don't like. And I've found myself using the same person over and over. It's taken a long time for me to even come to terms with. I can't even figure out what it is that I don't like about this person, but I've been working on it now for a couple of years. And it's changed the way I act and react when I'm around this person. So it has had positive results, despite the fact that I still don't like this person, and still don't know why. But little bits of it are coming out. So that's the flower watering, and then we move into the repentance part at our gatherings, or the Sangha. And I want to read to you what my friend Shohaku says about this. And I read this every time. Let's see. To begin anew is to... Oh, this is with the Plum Village one. To begin anew is to look deeply and honestly at ourselves, our past actions, speech, and thoughts, and to create a fresh beginning within ourselves and in our relationships with others. Can you imagine doing this every week? Wow, that would be powerful. My friend Okamura Roshi says, Sangha is to recognize and say publicly. So it's like a confession to tell. But in the word Sangha, it's not just telling or speaking, but it's something that happens in our mind to recognize I made certain mistakes and have some feeling there. That is to repent or regret. And then at the end of our full moon gathering, we recommit ourselves to the precepts, where I read a precept and then we say, and I say, will you, what do I say? Receive and, what does I say? Will you receive and maintain this precept? And then you have the opportunity of saying, yes, I will. So tonight we're going to have this gathering because it is a full moon. So it's kind of coincidental that this is the subject of the talk today. But the reason it's the subject of the talk today is because we are in the midst of New Year's. In the monastery, we celebrated New Year's itself for 3 days. The first day we got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we went to the meditation hall and did some meditation, and then we did our morning chanting, and then the teacher gave a talk, and then we went and had a big feast, a big New Year's breakfast. They have special foods for breakfast in Japan. And then we had the rest of the day off. But in the middle of the day we did the ceremony. It's called disseminating the Dharma. It's taking these. I'm pointing there because we have these chanting books that are accordion folds, and they have a whole set of the whole teaching about it's called the heart teachings, heart prajna, heart wisdom. What is prajna? Prajna is wisdom. Wisdom, yeah. But somehow it's called the heart sutra teachings. And there's this whole body of them that were written about the teachings of Buddha, and they've been put into Chinese and Japanese, and there's several books, and so we would fan these books on New Year's as a way of sharing and the merit of anything that we received and sharing these teachings. And if you were lucky, they weren't all over the floor when you fanned them. And so that's what we did the first day, and then the second day we got up at 4 o'clock and went through the same thing, but it wasn't quite as long for some reason. I can't remember why. Maybe not as much chanting. And then the third day we got up at 5 o'clock and did the same thing. So for 3 days we were kind of doing this celebration of New Year's. So this is the third day, so we have an opportunity to cultivate our intention, our New Year's resolutions. We had 3 days to kind of form them, and this year I'm trying really hard to make a New Year's resolution that I will not forget. Often I make New Year's resolutions and I write them down in my journal, and then way later in the year I look back and I say, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. So it will probably be very close to my practice period intention. So does anybody want to say anything? Can you speak a little loud so that they can hear you?
I tend to speak softly. With the beginning new ceremony, with the full moon ceremony, and we say something.
Can you hear him? Yes? No? They can't hear you. Can you speak louder?
Of course. Good morning, everyone. I'll start over.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I apologize for my soft-spoken nature. Anju-san, with the full moon ceremony where we have the Sangye and we acknowledge something positive about somebody we are in conflict with, what if that person is no longer accessible to us, meaning that we will not see them again, we will not communicate with them in all likelihood, and they are at a distance? Is it appropriate in your feeling to have that person, or is it more expedient means to draw up positive feelings for someone that you are actually in contact with?
Well, I don't know.
Thank you.
But I was thinking when you were saying that I don't see this person that I don't like very often, but it has awakened in me, the question of what is it? Where's that coming from? And so it seems like that could be the result of it. I don't think we necessarily have to see how it plays out, to get some benefit from, or some deeper understanding from it. But maybe that's a koan for you.
Thank you, Anju-san.
Just a second. Something just came through. Oh, a question. Just a second. Is that in chat? No.
I think those are texts.
It's a text. Okay, let me go to my texts. Oh, yeah. Susan is saying she was confused by the fact that the full moon ceremony was not on the calendar. That's because I am just starting to make the new schedule and I didn't get the full moons put on. Did you do it?
Randall sent it late, so I didn't get it.
I know it. Can you get those full moon ones on there? I sent you a text about that.
I haven't read that text. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, I'll
I bet
talk
you
to you.
can't.
We'll do it. We'll talk about it.
Just get them on the schedule, okay?
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, it wasn't on there. So, oh, okay. So she's been doing it as I've been speaking. Okay, so you didn't know I was going to get a text on my computer, did you, Susan? So Susan thought we were going to do it this morning, and I did think about actually going through it this morning, but then I thought people might come tonight anyway, so, but maybe no one will come tonight. Maybe we should do it now. Everybody want to do it? Okay, let's do it. I think it doesn't take that long anyway. Actually, we could just do the repentance part too, which is tradition. That's the practice that's done in Japan pretty much. They don't do all the other stuff. Wait, where is it? Here it is. Okay. So let's start out. Let's just do it. So first what we do is inviting the Buddhas and ancestors to be here with us and help us. And so the way it's usually done, could you get me one of those books that we used for the New Year's Eve? The way it's traditionally done is that you chant the names of specific ancestors that have a particular quality. For example, Manjushri is the bodhisattva of wisdom, and so you're inviting wisdom. Or Avalokiteshvara is the bodhisattva of compassion, so you're inviting compassion. And the reason I haven't been doing it that way is because there's no real explanation in our ceremony of what the meaning is. You just have to kind of know that. But yeah, thank you. But in Thich Nhat Hanh's beginning a new ceremony, which we did on New Year's Eve, his invitation to the ancestors is actually, you do a bow on each one, and Shakyamuni Buddha, the awakened one, and then you bow to whom we bow in gratitude. Manjushri, the bodhisattva of great understanding. He doesn't call it wisdom, he calls it understanding, to whom we bow in gratitude. Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of great compassion. Maitreya, the Buddha to be born, the Buddha of the future, something that we might awaken, to whom we bow in gratitude. So what I usually do is I say, think about some quality that you want to invite to this ceremony or to this gathering. You know, for example, I might say, I want to invite honesty. You know, or if somebody has something they want to invite, I will take a minute to do that. Take a deep breath and think about some quality. And if you want, you can say it aloud.
I would like to invite the spirit of truth.
I'd like to invite the spirit of healing.
Healing.
I would like to invite the spirit of pulling the log out of my own eye.
Pulling the log out of his eye.
I'd like to invite the spirit of freedom of judgment.
Of what? Freedom from judgment? guidance.
I would like to invite the spirit of courage.
Courage. Louder.
I would like to invite the spirit of harmony.
Harmony. So then we move into the flower watering. So it starts with yourself. So take a deep breath and see if you can think of some quality in yourself that you appreciate. And anyone can speak.
I appreciate my dedication.
Perseverance.
I appreciate my dedication.
I appreciate my willingness to contribute.
Did you hear that? Willingness to contribute.
I appreciate being a good friend to people.
I appreciate offering guidance when it's asked for.
I appreciate my conviction.
I appreciate my service.
And then the second part is to do it for someone that you're in conflict with, someone who's annoying you, someone you just plain old don't like. So take a deep breath and let it out slowly and quietly. Let your body kind of release with your breath. And if you want to mention a quality that you appreciate about someone that you have difficulty with,
I appreciate in the other their sense of duty.
And I appreciate there being a mirror reflecting things, negative things back at me that I have to improve.
yes, I appreciate the fact that this person has caused me to reflect on myself.
Those are much better words. Thank you.
No, thank you for saying what you did.
I appreciate their humor.
Humor, she said.
I appreciate this person's ability to persevere.
I appreciate the other's faith.
Faith.
I appreciate their attempts to make the world a better place.
So then we'll move into the Sangye part, which is also called setting aside. And so this is an opportunity to mention something that you would like to set aside about yourself, that you're doing, a karmic habit or something. Take a deep breath and let it out slowly and quietly, releasing your body, and see what comes up. What would you like to set aside? Pardon?
What are we looking to set aside?
Something that, some habit that you want to change.
Something to drop off, like
Yeah, yeah.
sleepy zazen.
Sleepy zazen.
I would like to set aside blame.
Blame.
I would like to set aside my self-criticism, like inward-facing critiques. Yeah.
I would like to set aside indulgence.
He says right after Christmas.
Eggnog.
I would like to set aside the need to have an answer immediately.
Did you hear that? The need to have an answer immediately.
I would like to set aside the times when I'm not the first one to soften.
Did you hear that?
I would like to set aside the pressure I can exert on people to change and self-doubt, which I'm finding go hand.
He's got a whole list.
I can keep going.
I would like to set aside my fear of loss.
I'd like to set aside the inability to be compassionate to myself.
I would also like to set aside the graspiness around others, around change, changing.
Yeah.
But
See what I talk about? How everybody's resonates. Not one thing that's been said. Oh yeah. I would like to set aside the tendency to overdo.
I would like to set aside a lot of things from the past.
And the final part of this that is part of the longer ceremony. Usually in Japan, when we did this ceremony, it was an abbreviation of it, which is to just do the repentance. And really, this Sangye or repentance part is really the heart of this practice, this gathering, this kind of full moon gathering practice, because it's an opportunity to begin to change those things that create disharmony in our lives. But in the longer ceremony, or that is not often done, there is also the receiving of the precepts, and I have put that into our gathering on these full moon nights, full moon days, because I feel like the precepts are what, if we get the precepts on our radar, they will help us to keep this intention alive and to remember to do it. So I'm just going to go in a Soto Zen traditionally. We all receive, it's called 16 Bodhisattva precepts. And the first 3 are called the refuges, but actually that word refuge, the translation of it means something more like returning. It also has a sense of refuge, but returning to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. These are the 3, what are called the 3 treasures in Buddhism. Buddha means that awakening, and sometimes that manifests in terms of the person that is inspiring us to awaken, someone who becomes our teacher. And so returning to that awakening through someone else or through our own ability to awaken. Returning to Dharma. Dharma it's both the teachings that awaken us, and it's also, Dharma refers to everything, the everythingness of life. Returning to that recognition of our relationship with life itself, that we don't exist in isolation, but our discriminating mind often creates this tendency to compare ourselves. That's what creates problems. We compare ourselves with another person, and that person, there's something we don't like about that person, so we want to push away that person. So taking refuge, or returning to the Dharma, returning to that which brings about that awakening, and the awakening itself to the life that we exist within. And then when we awaken to that, then we don't create such separation between ourselves and others. And then the Sangha is the community of people that practice together, the spiritual practitioners. And originally that was seen just as monks, and then it turned into the broader, all those who were practicing together. And I actually take it even beyond that to everyone who is pursuing a spiritual practice that brings about harmony, peace and harmony, because the purpose of this practice is to learn to live in peace and harmony with all beings. So we receive these refuges, we receive these and accept them. So that's the first 3. The second 3 are, they're usually said as to avoid evil, to do good, and to purify the mind itself. But the way we've been talking about them is kind of more holistically, to strive to avoid what is unwholesome, what creates disharmony, to strive to do the wholesome, to strive to do something that is good for all beings, and to strive to embrace and benefit all beings. This is called the Bodhisattva vow. And this is the underlying spirit of what is called the prohibitive precepts, but I think of them more as not just prohibiting, not just not doing what is harmful, but doing what is helpful. So these are talked about as, I am reverential and mindful with life. I am not violent. I do not willfully kill. And this can also be seen as, how can I bring about life? How can I bring about not just not killing, but healing and bringing about things, life. And then I say, will you receive and maintain this precept? And you can say to yourself or aloud, yes, I do. So let's just start with the first three refuges, and then I will say, will you receive and maintain these precepts? and you can say, yes, I will, if you want to. I return to the Buddha, I return to the Dharma, I return to the Sangha. I return to Buddha as the perfect teacher. I return to Dharma as the perfect teaching. I return to Sangha as the perfect life. I have completely returned to the Buddha. I have completely returned to the Dharma. I have completely returned to the Sangha. Will you receive and maintain these precepts?
Yes, I will.
The three pure precepts. Strive to avoid the unwholesome. Strive to do the wholesome. Strive to embrace and benefit all beings. Will you receive and maintain these precepts?
Yes, I will.
Strive to avoid the unwholesome. Strive to do the wholesome. Strive to embrace and benefit all beings. Will you receive and maintain these precepts?
Yes, I will.
Strive to avoid the unwholesome. Strive to do the wholesome. Strive to embrace and benefit all beings. Will you receive and maintain these precepts?
Yes, I will.
I am reverential and mindful with all life. I am not violent. I do not willfully kill. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
I respect the property of others. I do not steal. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
I am conscious and loving in my relationships. I do not misuse sexuality. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
I honor honesty and truth. I do not deceive. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
I exercise proper care of my body, mind. I am not gluttonous. I do not abuse drugs or encourage others to do so. I do not sell the wine of delusion. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
I recognize that words can hurt others. I do not slander. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
I cultivate humility. I do not praise myself or judge others. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
I cultivate letting go. I do not attach to anything, even the teaching. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
I cultivate inner peace. I do not harbor ill will. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
I esteem the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I do not defame them. Will you receive and maintain this precept?
Yes, I will.
The Dharma unfolded in manifested body is the world's path of crossing over. Its virtue returns to the ocean of all-knowing wisdom. It is unfathomable and should be received with respect and devotion. These are the precepts of Buddha in general. We are now instructed to receive them with respect and reverence whenever they are taught or conferred. Thus, on this full moon night, we offer the merit of the Bodhisattva way through every world system to the unconditioned nature of all beings.
May the merit of this practice
May the merit of this practice
benefit all beings
benefit all beings
and bring peace.
and bring peace. So I'll do my 3 prostrations and then we'll have the exit bells.
And maybe announcements.
Oh, we're going to make some announcements first.
Well, are you still planning on doing the full moon ceremony tonight?
I'll show up for the full moon ceremony if anybody wants to, just in case anybody shows up. And we'll do it. It won't go quite so fast.
But it's the same thing.
It'll be the same thing, yeah. So
So full moon gathering tonight, 7 p.m., which is online or in person. Next Saturday, Rev Teijo is speaking again. She'll be speaking more about the 16 Bodhisattva precepts. And this is partially, I guess, in preparation of the fact that in this spring we'll have a Raksu sewing practice retreat. So if you're interested in receiving the precepts and sewing a Raksu, please email me at info@greattreetemple.org, and I'll help you get set up with that. And I'll open we've also kind of gathered our sesshin dates for the spring. So if you're interested in knowing more about the spring sesshin dates, also email me at the same address. And yeah, that's what's going on.
Okay, good. Thank you.